All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Spilling Tea with the G's. I'm Nick Galarakis, and again, my co-host, my brother Steve. We are thrilled to have the CEO, Alison Silberman from Stupid Cancer, on with us today. I know there's a lot coming up with Stupid Cancer and CancerCon, so we're going to talk a little about that. But first, Alison, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Awesome. So, Allison, let's just kind of jump right into it. I think a lot of people that watch this know who Stupid Cancer is, so we'll get to that in a second. But you're new to all this still, relatively speaking, which is, I think, so awesome. Myself, I'm somewhat new still to the AYA community from the elephants and teas side of things. Been involved as an advocate for years since Steve's first cancer 15 years ago. So I think it'd be really cool for just our audience if you want to tell a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and any other details you want to share with us as far as your life dealing with cancer.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I am fairly new. I started with the organization at the end of July in 2019. So we've been going through a lot of transition in the past few months. So it's an exciting time. It's a really great time to be in the AYA space. I am based in New York City, in Brooklyn, along with the rest of our Stupid Cancer staff. And an East Coaster through and through. My background is in government and advocacy work. So I've worked for the government, I've worked in cancer patient advocacy, but what really brought me to Stupid Cancer was a personal experience with AYA cancer. Nearly 14 years ago, my younger brother was diagnosed with stage 4 Ewing's, and he passed away after about 18 months of battling that disease. But in that time, as a sister, a caregiver, a friend, I really saw what made his experience challenging. And again, this was 14 years ago. So people weren't even talking about AYAs. We didn't even acknowledge that this was the thing. But, kind of being in the passenger seat and watching the emotional challenge and just the practical challenges of being a 25-year-old with cancer was really, really striking. I mean, he certainly didn't expect to get cancer. Nobody plans to get cancer. And it really kind of felt like it came out of left field for all of us, for family and friends. He had an incredible support team, but there was really nobody there who truly understood what he was going through. And I think a lot of our community can kind of understand that you can explain it and you can talk about it and you can see it, but to be a young person with cancer is very different than what any of us really expect the cancer experience to be like. So Stupid Cancer, was kind of in its fetal stages around the time that my brother was going through his treatment. And to see the difference over the past decade plus of how we're addressing unique challenges and issues in the AYA space, how we're talking to young people, is really incredible. And certainly, again, a really exciting time to be in the AYA space because we've come so far, but we still do have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And I know I knew the story about your personal experience with cancer, so thank you for sharing that with everybody else, first off. And I think you hit it on the head is with the standpoint of being there and having more support for the AYAs right now. And it seems to me anyways, the past 3 or 4 years, things really have started to really generate more and more support for the AYA space. I think we still have ways to go. But it's been really neat to see since then, even before when Elephants and Tea was around, you could see that people were starting to do different things. CancerCon, for example, has been around forever. And what that event does in itself is amazing, which we'll get to in a second. But I think it's just so important, like you mentioned, to have some sort of dialogue and be there for people. And I think what's the biggest marker, if you will, from what people respond on if we're doing something right or wrong, whether it's a Stupid Cancer or another organization, is when someone says, you know what, I wish I had this while I was going through treatments. Thank you for doing that. And I feel like I'm hearing that more and more from patients and survivors now than I ever have. So it's been pretty neat to see, what you all are doing, what we're doing, and others as well that we all partner with. It's cool to see that transition starting to actually take place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm thrilled, obviously, to have you a part of Stupid Cancer because I think it's important. You bring a perspective that's similar to mine, having a sibling, right? And
Mhm.
I think that sometimes we see things in a different way that I know that Steve would have seen things going through the treatments, or your brother would have seen it going through treatments. And it's so interesting to me how I'm finding more siblings are starting to get involved with the AYA space. And I think that that's very cool and just kind of shows the impact it has on an entire family, right? Not just the actual patient itself.
Yeah, and I think, at least when I was going through it, and I also have a sister. I think, we really felt like, in terms of the family support, there isn't a lot out there. We talk a lot about caregivers, but what are we actually doing for the caregivers and for those siblings in particular? And it's not to diminish the experience of the patient or the patient's parents or the patient's spouse, but there is a whole um, group of caregivers that we really need to focus on. All of those needs are very different, and especially within this age demographic, we see that support team changes over time. Maybe it's one group of friends, then it's family, then it's another group of friends, and how can we be flexible and support all of those different people as well as the patient? So we talk about the AYA community as patients and survivors, but it's so much bigger than that.
Yes, completely agree. You said it better than I could have right there. That's for sure. But it's so true. And when people talk about caregivers, I think most people think of the parents, right? And I think that's important too. I think the parents do bear most of the load across the board when you're dealing, especially with the adolescent side of the AYA or the younger young adults. But the siblings as well, there's not a whole lot out there at all for siblings. But again, it's just cool to see more and more things popping up, and that's pretty awesome. So, we've talked a little about Stupid Cancer already, but we haven't really dove into it. So how about for those that don't know about Stupid Cancer, Alison, can you kind of tell us all a little bit about what Stupid Cancer is and what you're all about, basically?
Sure. Well, our mission is to empower AYAs by ending isolation and building community. But what we are is a committed group of individuals, board, staff, community of patients, caregivers, professionals who are really dedicated to changing the cancer care landscape. We are focused on recognizing and addressing all of these unique issues that young adults face as they battle cancer and prepare them for the long term. Obviously the goal is to beat the cancer and to come out on the other side. But we want to make sure that on the other side, there is a good quality of life, and that when you're ready, that you can think about things like what to do with your finances, how to deal with your relationships, all of these things that are going on in your life as a young person, all of the professional and personal developments that are happening. So, certainly it's about supporting folks through treatment, but also helping them set themselves up for what happens in the long term and what that survivorship looks like.
Very cool. And how many years now has Stupid Cancer been around for?
We're about 13 now. We're officially teenagers.
I never thought about it that way, but it's so true. Very cool. Steve, did you have something?
Oh no, I was going to say, it was you mentioned there the goal of Stupid Cancer is to end isolation. And as someone who has, like your brother, I was diagnosed 14 years ago, and I got to meet Matthew Zachary when he was still, I'm too young for this. And for those of you who don't know, Matthew Zachary is the founder of Stupid Cancer. And so it really is something that you guys have been successful at, truthfully. And as someone who has attended CancerCon every year, and we'll ask you more about that later. But it's Stupid Cancer really does provide a service to AYAs that never existed, and still to this day, I think you're probably one of the only organizations that really helps with that isolation in terms of meeting people in person, in face. And it's something that I can speak to as a patient, as just to say it's been wonderful that you got for what all the work that Stupid Cancer has done. And I'm really happy that you're there now, Alison, too, to continue that torch for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for that that lovely sentiment. Yeah, I think, as you know all too well, and as many of our folks know, that there's that feeling of, when you get a cancer diagnosis, that I don't get cancer. I'm 20, I'm, 16, I'm 30. People my age don't get cancer, and it's very isolating. And so we are really focused on how we can just show you that there is somebody else out there that looks like you, that's going through what you're going through, and, isn't a little kid, or isn't, an older, a grandmother or grandfather. And I remember very clearly walking into several different hospitals with my brother, and it was either cartoons all over the walls, or he was the youngest person in the room. And that in itself is just very isolating and feels a little diminishing. So, we're really trying to break through that. And CancerCon is certainly a great way to do it, and as well as some of our other programs. And, those challenges, I think, in the past couple of months, and probably in the future few months, is going to be even greater, because we know that we are now all isolating. So, we're trying to help folks remember just to, maybe physically isolate, but don't socially isolate.
Right. Yeah. And before we kind of go into the CancerCon stuff, with the isolation due to COVID-19 right now, I know that for us, I know for you, especially with CancerCon, you keep bringing it up, that things have changed for different ways. But what are some things that Stupid Cancer's been doing to help with that social isolation right now?
Sure. Well, we have, the good thing is that as a national organization, we have kind of been doing a lot of digital work previously. So the transition was fairly seamless and not as painful as it could have been, which is wonderful. We have digital meetup program. We've had a digital meetup program for the past year or so, year and a half. So we've really ramped that up. That was one of our, originally it was a program that we do in person and once a week, every Monday evening online. Obviously not doing the in-person ones right now, but we do continue the Monday evening ones, as well as adding in additional ones. Some of them are issue specific, some of them have activities associated with them. But the idea is just hop on Zoom, meet some other people. If you're a little shy or a little uncomfortable or a little wary of doing this on a computer, there's some sort of activity that you can do to kind of help make it a little bit easier, a little bit more comfortable. If there's one that you want to host, we'd love to have more people come and host. But that's just a way to kind of connect, and really allows people to connect across the country. So, what a great opportunity. We've also ramped up our webinar series and included some more, responding to a lot of the stuff that we're hearing from the community about their concerns during this particular time. Whether it's just a specific COVID-based webinar, just what you need to know as an AYA, or if it is about social isolation. We did one yesterday on dating while socially isolated, mental health and wellness, all of that stuff. So we're really trying to respond to what we hear and provide more opportunities for people, not just to learn, but to connect with each other too.
Awesome. The dating while socially isolating, I think more than just cancer patients could use that.
I know, right? I was thinking about who I could send it to, and then I thought maybe that's insulting.
Plenty of people that need that.
Yeah, it should go to everybody.
That's pretty funny. It's so interesting with the topics, right? And these are obviously the topics they're no strangers to, I'm tongue-tied all of a sudden. They're not strangers to the young adults, cancer patients and survivors, but now they are relevant to everybody, which is hilarious. One of the young ladies wrote for us about being a master in social isolation and kind of joking like, okay, the rest of the world is freaking out right now. Let us teach you what social isolation really is. And I think it's funny to hear like the different topics that you mentioned with the webinar series and how they are so relevant to everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Well, right, for sure. Well, that's awesome that you guys are doing all that. I know the digital meetups have been around for much longer than that, but talk about such a big meaning right now with people being in lockdown mode, and especially as we know, most cancer patients are at a higher risk with everything that's going on with COVID. So they need this sense of community, right? And that's the cool thing about Stupid Cancer, Elephants and Tea, that especially for you guys, you're providing that safe space. And that's something that we've talked about, I think, with all the different organizations that we've brought on with Spilling Tea, is the ability to make sure that we do continue to have some sort of safe space, even though it's digital. Everyone's always, I think, a little bit nervous when it comes to what's shared, what's not shared on the web and stuff. But again, it's just so awesome to have those meetups, have those webinars where people can ask those types of questions and things that they might not do so in person, even when COVID's not around. So that's very cool that you guys are continuing to do all that. So let's talk CancerCon. Now that one of the elephants in the room, right? Here we are with it coming up. I had to do it. Sorry, Steve. I know you're laughing at me. With CancerCon, for those that haven't heard yet and they've been living under a rock, CancerCon did not happen in person this year. It was supposed to happen in April, which we were extremely bummed about, especially for Steve. He's been. Have you actually been to everyone, Steve, or have you been?
I have been to every single CancerCon since it switched over from the OMG conference. And actually, while we're talking about that, Alison, if you wouldn't mind actually explaining what CancerCon is to people who don't know what it is.
Sure. Though I feel like you could probably do better than I could, because I've never actually been to CancerCon. This was supposed to be my first.
I mean, I can if you want me to.
Yeah, so we did have to, we were supposed to be in Seattle. We were not. It is the largest gathering of the AYA community, and it brings together patients, survivors, caregivers, professionals for a weekend of education, activities, and mostly connections. I think, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the greatest things that people get out of CancerCon is the relationships that they make and the people that they meet.
Oh, most definitely. And I have no problem saying that as a cancer patient, and even as a guy who doesn't like to talk to people during going through cancer, because it's obviously something that we suffer from as men. But CancerCon is the single most important thing that any AYE cancer patient can do or go to, because it truly makes you feel like you're not alone. And even though someone like me who's been sick in Ohio, where there's a bunch of hospitals and quite a few AYAs, there's still this sense of walking into that conference room and there's 600 of you from around the country and around the world that all get it. It's this pretty awesome experience. And life-changing, truly. There was a young man that I met there my first year, I think, who was from Montana. Low population, not a lot of people. And the only person he had ever met who had cancer was 35 years older than him.
Oh my God.
So coming to CancerCon was the first time he had seen anybody within 25, 35 years of his age that had cancer. And it just changed his world. So it's a really, really, really cool experience for people to get a chance to do.
It sounds, for me, I'll even just say something too before we go in. So, well, I'll save my piece. So where we're going with this, because we keep dancing around it, CancerCon is happening, right, Alison? It's happening. It's now virtual this year, and hopefully we'll be in Minneapolis next year, but it's virtual. The first full weekend in June, which I'm putting on the calendar, June 6th and 7th, correct?
Correct.
Sweet. That's 3 weekends away. We're recording this. By the time this goes live, it'll be 2 weekends away, which is hard to believe that it's literally here. And
no kidding.
I'm sure for you and everyone else on the Stupid Cancer staff, it's like, okay, you and I were talking a little bit before the recording started. It's like you're a month out, and you were a month out for the actual in-person one when you had to cancel the in-person one, which was a huge bummer. But I know that we're happy that it's still happening digitally. Spoiler alert, Steve and I will be speaking. We're super thrilled to be talking about the sibling effect on things, which I'll get to my piece about the siblings and CancerCon as well. But tell us a little bit about it, Alison, as far as the structure of it, right? I think everyone that has been to CancerCon knows what to expect for an in-person one, but I think it'd be good for all of those that have been to the in-person one, what's going to be different digitally. And even for those that have never been to one, that now there's an opportunity for them to participate in CancerCon in a different way. What can they expect with CancerCon going virtual this year?
Sure. Well, in addition to you guys in your presentation and your discussion. It will be, it's a weekend long. It's all on the internet. So throughout the day, throughout the 2 days, we'll have 25 different breakout sessions and discussion sessions. So a lot of it will be, in terms of the agenda, very similar to what you would experience at the live event. A lot of the topics are the same. A lot of the speakers that we had planned for Seattle will be online with us. So a lot of the information that you were anticipating will be there, and you'll have the ability to join discussion groups, ask questions, and really engage in a meaningful way. In addition to the breakout sessions, we have our 3 general sessions, of which we will see these 2 familiar faces. Across the board, we have about 53 different speaker panelists, and all experts in their field. We've got tons of fun activities because again, we know that CancerCon is really about building those connections and making friends. So we're going to have happy hours. We're going to have a documentary watch party. We're going to have our storytelling open mic night. There's going to be a dance party DJ'd by DJ Cherish the Love. We'll have a chat lounge. So if you just kind of want to chill and talk to people, there's the opportunity to do that. And the best part is that you can win CancerCon. So throughout the weekend, you're going to have the opportunity to gain points doing fun gamification things. And, the top 10 folks, the top 10 points will be able to get some really cool Stupid Cancer swag. So our goal was really to maintain the integrity of in-person CancerCon, but now you can do it from your living room in your PJs, and you don't even have to brush your hair if you don't want to. So you'll be more comfortable. So we're really excited about it. The community has the outpouring of support has been really great, and we're so thankful for that. It's going to be a really amazing weekend.
Awesome. Very cool. I know I've checked out the agenda. I love how you're keeping it moving and you're doing different things throughout the day, which I think is awesome. And I think it keeps it fresh and everything. And like you said, you don't have to leave it. You can sit wherever you want to sit and do it. If it's nice enough, you can sit outside and then be on your
yeah.
whatever. So that's awesome. I know we're pumped to be a part of it. So thank you again for including us. I think it's going to be great. All things considered, right? And it's just so cool that I think that you're going to get people there that wouldn't normally even be there in person too, which is the cool thing about being virtual as well. So, hey, that's awesome. So we're thrilled. We're excited about it. I hope everyone else is too. And if people haven't registered, I'm just going to throw it out there. Go to Stupid Cancer's website, or even, is it cancercon.org, Alison?
That's correct. You can register at cancercon.org. You can see the agenda and the speakers. Learn more about it, ask questions. But yeah, that's where you can find out about it and join us. And we are excited that there aren't the barriers that we had before to joining. No one has to get on a plane. Nobody has to book a hotel room. So you can join us for all or part of the weekend. But I think once you sign on Saturday morning, you probably won't want to leave.
Nice. Now, the plan is to have the in-person one next year still, correct, in Minneapolis?
We are still talking about Minneapolis in 2021. And, obviously we are continuously monitoring and evaluating, and we will do what is best for our community to keep them safe. I think we're all hopeful that this ends soon, if not yesterday. But, we'll keep everybody updated as we move along, and hopefully we can see everybody in person in 2021 in Minneapolis.
Awesome. So this is going to be your first CancerCon. You ready?
I don't even know what to expect anymore.
I mean, talk about just bursting the bubble, right? I mean, of course, CancerCon had to be postponed, canceled, whatever you want to call it, right, with everything going on. But, it was funny when you and I spoke just after that. You're like, yep, still haven't gone to a CancerCon yet. I'm like, wait a minute, what? But it's just the way it goes, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have to share a story for me with my first CancerCon when this was back in, I'm gonna test my brain here. I think it was 2018 was the first one I went to. I've been to 2, right? So yeah, 19, 18. So 2018, which was the year that we launched Elephants in Tea, my mom and I had talked about it for a long time on just trying to do something different. And this is before we knew exactly what we were going to do, like Elephants in Tea, for example. And my older brother and I, and Steve's heard this before, but we were constantly pushing Steve to, like, for lack of a better term, get his stuff together, right? And just basically, like, why aren't you finishing school? Why aren't you doing this and that? And so my mom's like, come to CancerCon. And it so happens I was a traveling salesman for a media company at the time. And Denver was my territory, and it was in Denver. So I swung by CancerCon for a day and a half. And that was where it opened my eyes of, while it's amazing for someone that you think you're affiliated with an AYA community, until you actually go to CancerCon or be in an area where there are 300, 400 young adult survivors and patients, you don't really get it. And when I was there, the big kind of eye opener for me was that chemo brain, and the fact that everybody in that room, my brother was just like everybody else there. Where Steve, we were always like, why are you forgetting this? Or what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? And it was quite the aha moment for me of just kind of sitting back and almost felt embarrassed for how we did treat Steve at times, for one reason or the other, constantly. And plus, he's the youngest of 3 brothers, so he's never right, whether he thinks he is or not.
I'm always right.
Yeah, it was just amazing to me when you do get people from across the country, as you mentioned, being a national organization, it's amazing the power that holds, and what you really kind of sit there and you realize what's going on. And so that was kind of what being around CancerCon, being around people there that year really kind of helped us understand how we wanted to go along with Elephants in Tea. So it's amazing that organizations like A Stupid Cancer, without leading the way, you wouldn't have these other organizations, because you do bring everybody else together at once, if that makes sense. So it's very interesting and very cool to have that, because I think we all see different regional AYA conferences affiliated with specific hospitals, which do awesome jobs. But until you actually get out of that bubble and you actually do see that there are others going through it from a caregiver standpoint, from a patient standpoint, it really opens up, as Steve, you mentioned the individual from Montana, but CancerCon really is it's the conference to bring people together in this community. I don't think there's anything else out there that would even come close, in my opinion.
Well, and Alison, one of the, you mentioned the ability to form relationships with people. And my first year at CancerCon, there was a young man from Australia at CancerCon who was coming because he wanted to see what was being done in the US for AYAs at hospitals across the country. And he was taking it back to hopefully convince his hospital in his region to do certain things for AYA patients. And a week after I met him in Australia, he was trying to come to Cleveland to talk to the hospitals here. And he ended up crashing on my couch for 2 nights. And I just met him like 2 weeks earlier from Australia. And so it's just, you really do create these incredible relationships and friendships at CancerCon, because, it really is a place where you go, and for the first time in your life, you have people who just understand you, and you're like, I don't really feel good right now. And instead of having to explain why you don't feel good, everyone's like, all right, see you later, have a good night, whatever, no issues, and so it's, every year I go, I feel like I learn something new and I gain some new information. My brother's gone twice. I've gone I think it's 4 years now. CancerCon's been going on. So this would have been the 5th year.
We were in Denver for 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. So I've been there 5 years in a row now. Then, and so every time I went, I just had this incredible experience and learned new things and met new people and felt like I was getting a part of me back.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, and that story about meeting somebody and just kind of the connection, the instantaneous connection it's really very incredible and heartwarming. And that's, that's what we're trying to foster. And hopefully we can do that online as well. But, it's so important for your survivorship, for your outlook, to know that there is a support community out there. There are people out there you can talk to, who can understand, who you can just sit in a room with and not talk to. It's really just, it's really about knowing that it's not just you. And while everybody's experience is different, there's still so much that can be shared.
You mentioned something there that I saw today posted by one of my friends who has been to CancerCon many times, and it was a little meme, and it said, I think this speaks to cancer patients, and it just popped into my head, and it was, "If you're tired of talking, come sit down next to me, because I am also a master of silence." I don't know, it just reminded me of that. And it's so true, I feel like, for cancer patients, because so many times we're asked to talk about how we're feeling and things. And when you're at an event like CancerCon, you don't have to. There's just a blanket understanding.
The sense of trust too, right? I think with the relationship building that you both have mentioned, but there's no community like this. Well, I take that back. There is one other community like this I've seen once, but that was at YSC with the breast cancer community. But very similar with the AYA community, that there's just an immediate sense of trust when you meet somebody that's going through the same thing, like cancer. That's probably been the coolest thing to me, and you both have mentioned it with the relationship building, but you immediately trust that person, which I think is really cool to see too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, anything else about CancerCon, Alison, that everybody should know? I think what do you think?
Well, you should definitely come.
Definitely.
But another benefit of doing this online is that we'll have everything saved, so you can go back and visit for a few months afterwards. So, if there was a session you couldn't make, or you kind of want to revisit a conversation, all of that will still be available online. So, so you can go back and you can go to all of the CancerCon sessions this year.
Right. And that'll be the first time ever, right? I don't think, have other sessions been on demand before?
No, we have recorded a couple of general sessions in the past, but we've never done a full-blown, everything's available for you after the event. So so you can attend everything.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. See, benefits to virtual, right?
Yeah, well, that's our silver lining.
Yeah. Well, and I really think that's a really wonderful tool to have for patients, because, I mean, for anybody coming to CancerCon, because obviously life is already crazy right now with everything that's going on and being able to see it or not. But then just being a cancer patient, I don't need to tell the two of you how up in the air life can be sometimes. So the fact that, there's this wonderful resource and event that you might not be able to attend for whatever reason because you don't feel good that day and you don't want to look at a screen, the fact that you can come back a week later and still get all that important information, which at a time right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, I feel is even more important. So it's really cool that you guys are making those all that information available to patients.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so the next question we have for you, Alison, this is the one we ask everybody that comes on.
Okay.
It's kind of one of our sayings, right? What is your elephant in the room when it comes to cancer, specifically the young adult community? Do you have an elephant in the room that's kind of been eating at you a little bit? Curious to see. Last week we were told this Stephanie Scoletti, who joined us, she had a herd in the room, which was fun, but curious to see if you have any elephants in the room.
A herd does feel more appropriate. I won't harp on the global pandemic, because I think that's everybody's elephant these days. I think thinking in the larger scope of the AYA community, I shared my story about my brother and what brought me here, and how amazing it is to see how much has changed over time. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I'm also the wife of an AYA cancer survivor. So, kind of seeing it from different perspectives, and my husband, who had beat cancer actually around the same time as my brother was in treatment, and it just has kind of moved on and is doing really well. It just goes to show that there are so many different experiences within this one little bucket. And we need to realize that being a young person with cancer is different. It's different for the patient, it's different for the family, for their loved ones. And it's different from being a pediatric patient, it's different from being an adult or a geriatric patient, because we're thinking not just about the basic cancer treatment, but we're thinking about the long term. And what does that mean? We're at a critical time in our lives, you know, when we're 15 to 39, or as Stupid Cancer defines AYA as 15 to 39. In that development, whether personal or professional or educational, that's going to shape your entire life. And we have an entire generation of people who are, whether it's a personal diagnosis or a friend's, loved one's diagnosis, that will impact how they kind of view this disease and how they move forward in supporting or in their own treatment and survivorship. So as a community, as the general public, and in the healthcare profession, we really need to recognize that this age group has specific needs that need to be addressed. And in some respects, we're doing it really well. And in some respects, we really need to focus on it. And I think there's a huge opportunity for all of us nonprofits and all of us patient advocacy groups to bring together all of the professionals and the public and each other to work together in a really strong collaborative way to make the needs of AYAs a priority, whether it's a priority in their treatment, it's a priority in their support during and after, and then a priority for all of those around them that are working together with them. You know, I think, like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think that elephant is really just us getting together like we are now and having these conversations and bringing to light these challenges and these problems and these needs of young people who are battling cancer. So we are all set up to move forward. The contribution on society is huge when we think about the long term. And I think we really need to kind of start talking about the bigger picture. It's not just beating cancer, but it's, you know, when we're thinking about beating cancer, we're thinking about beating the whole thing, you know, the disease and then all of the ramifications afterwards.
Well said. I think that I agree with everything you said there. The bigger picture is so crucial with this age group for many reasons, psychosocial, the career aspect you mentioned. It's just a whole nother world for these patients. And I mean, Steve, I'm going to say you're like the poster child for everything that Alison just said. You know, losing your high school, losing your college years, those are critical years from a development standpoint, not just from a career standpoint, but just growing as a human. So go ahead, Steve.
Well, and you know, it's not even so much losing high school and losing college, because obviously those things stink, but you can still be a fully functioning human being without those. And, you know, other places in the world, you know, we're very privileged in the US, and it's nice to be able to complain about not having a high school or a college. You know, years, because other parts of this world, that would be a blessing to have those kind of things. But what makes it so important is that, you know, we always kind of talk about, you know, forget cancer for a second, but when we talk about people's like health and weight, you know, we usually say if you don't take care of it in your 20s and your 30s, you're never going to take care of it. You're never going to be able to take care of it. And so it's one of those things where if you don't set up the good process of being healthy in your 20s, in your teens, in your young adult years, whether it's mental, psychological, or physical, you set yourself up for failure in life. And I don't mean success, but I mean as health, in a health way. You know, how many people do we know that, you know, would have been better off if they had gone to see a doctor in their 20s or their 30s for just regular health issues? And so for a cancer patient, it really makes it even more important to have those things in your 20s and your 30s, those psychosocial things that you spoke about, Alison, because without them, not only will you have to deal with the ramifications of cancer that come along, but those ramifications lead into so many issues in your life through improper development, through not taking care of your mental health, your spiritual health, or your physical health. And they just become a massive detriment to you as you go on. And it's such a crucial time to get those habits built in. And without the tools, whether it's an organization like Stupid Cancer, Elephants in Tea, Dear Jack, and all these other organizations that we know of, this whole population would be left out in the cold and would not be good citizens to this world without, you know, the help that you guys provide.
And one other thing to add to that too, that you mentioned, Alison, is the importance of the organizations to continue to work together, right? We all do things, I think, a little bit differently and support people in a different way. And being able to be open and pass patients and survivors to one another, saying, hey, we don't really support that, but this group does. And making sure that we continue to open those lines of communication, talk, like you said, like we're doing right now, and in other ways too. Keeping that dialogue going is just so important. And that's just how we're all going to grow together too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't be everything to everyone, and we know that, but we know that there are amazing organizations like Elephants and Tea out there who can fulfill something that we might not be able to, or additional support. So, you know, we don't want to, there's 6 of us in the Stupid Cancer staff, and it's an amazing staff that works their butt off every day for this community. But, you know, if there's something that we can't help you with, we will find somebody who can.
Amen to that. That is for sure. Yeah. So that's a message to everybody out there, those organizations, you know, make sure we all help each other out and support our community. That's why we're all doing what we do, right?
Absolutely.
So, cool. Well, thank you, Alison, for the elephant in the room. That was very well said, and that was outstanding.
A huge elephant.
Huge. Arguably a herd then too. So well done. Could be a few people there. So, Alice, I know we're coming up on our time here with you. So any other parting thoughts for the community that we may not have covered today that you want to share?
Well, I just want to thank everybody out there. This is an incredible community to be a part of, and to be involved with. And, you know, we've had an incredible outpouring of support since we had to cancel CancerCon. I know that was not an easy thing for anybody. It was certainly not an easy decision for us to make. But it's such a wonderful community to be a part of. And I know nobody plans for this and nobody wants it, but it's really wonderful people we're working with and working for. And you know, if there are things, especially now as things are, you know, increasingly challenging for folks, that we can be helpful with, we encourage you to reach out. We encourage you to connect and stay healthy and safe. Because it's tough. It's a tough time for everybody. And we know it's especially tough for our community. So we're here for you. And thank you guys for having me. This was a great conversation. And I look forward to seeing your faces in a couple of weeks at CancerCon.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us. And we're thrilled to be there in a couple of weeks. Gosh, I'm still trying to wrap my head that it's June already coming up. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything. I was just agreeing with you. Time is flying by through all of this right now. It's kind of the one blessing, at least for me, it is. Yeah. But just want, you know, it's been great, Alison. I've been so happy to have you here. It's been a wonderful time talking to you. So it's been a lot of fun today and very educational as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, again, Alison, thank you so much for joining us. And for those that haven't subscribed yet to this video cast, please do so on our YouTube channel, just by clicking that little subscribe button. Our next episode, the week after this, will be with David and Scott Victorson. They're going to laugh at me, just butcher their last name. But they are the family that runs True North Treks, and David is also a professor in AYA Psychosocial at Northwestern University. So, and Steve knows them very well from being on a True North Treks trip, so it should be a pretty fun conversation with those guys next week. So looking forward to having 2 brothers as well on with us again. So it seems to be a trend that we're setting here. So again, Alison, thank you so much for joining us. For anyone that wants more information, check out Stupid Cancer's website or CancerCon as well. Or as always, shoot us an email and we're happy to connect you with Alison and the team if anyone has any questions afterwards. So again, thank you, Alison. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we will see you all next week. Take care.